The title, Debt of Love, might be a little misleading. I think that we do owe it to people to love, to be loving. Romans chapter 13, verse 7 says, "Give everyone what you owe him. If you owe taxes, pay taxes. If revenue, then revenue. If respect, then respect. If honor, then honor." I had a situation where a piece of equipment was busted. We needed the vendor to come out and replace it. I did the diagnostic. So I sent an email, and someone high up in rank in the organization said, "Stop being a lazy bum and get some work done and stop shoving things off on other people." I got a little incensed over that, and I wanted to send an email saying, "I'm going to come over there and crack your skull open," but I didn't do that. Fortunately, thank God that the Spirit of God gives us wisdom. What I thought was, what's wrong with these people? I'm doing the right thing. Wisdom was, send an email apologizing. I did my job and he insulted me. I followed the Holy Spirit and I said my email did not have enough expository, it was not verbose enough, and I apologize for not communicating clearly. This is the entirety of what I did. The conclusion that I came to is that we need to have the service technician come out, as we did with another situation. That was walking in love. Like Romans 13:7 says, give people what is due them. Someone is going to be a jerk. What you owe them is love. Verse 8 in Romans 13, let no debt remain outstanding except the continuing debt to love one another. In other words, if you owe somebody something, pay it. If you owe them money, pay them back. If you owe them a favor, do it. If you say, hey man, I'm going to help you fix your motorcycle, get your tools, get out there and get that Harley running. Whatever you owe somebody, give it to them. Then I'm going to do what Jesus would do and love them. We need to pay our debts, but the one debt that we can never finish paying is the debt to love one another. And it says here, he who loves his fellow man has fulfilled the law. The walk of love is very important. Verse 9 says, the commandments, do not commit adultery, do not murder, do not steal, do not covet, and whatever other commandment there may be are summed up in this one rule, love your neighbor as yourself. That's what the law is all about. Now, of course, the first commandments are about loving God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and then the rest of it is summed up in love your neighbor as yourself. If you love your neighbor, you're going to treat them right when you are dealing with the opposite sex. Obviously, you're a human being, but you don't want to give in to things that do not glorify God, and you certainly don't want to use somebody. Now, I was listening to Kenneth Copeland, and he told the analogy of this man who was burning up with lust, and here's this woman who had financial needs, and she needed her bills paid, and they got together. And the man liked to wore the woman out, and the woman just spent the man's money, and he said, all you want from me is my money. And she says, well, all you want from me is my body. And it was just a mess. Well, it was lust. But we are not called to lust after one another, but to love and to serve one another. Don't go looking for someone to pay your bills. Don't go looking for someone to satisfy your flesh. To first and foremost, love one another. In the book of Galatians, Paul writes in chapter 5, verse 13, he says, you, my brothers, were called to be free, but do not use your freedom to indulge the sinful nature. Rather, serve one another in love. In a marriage relationship, it's the same thing. You love this person. You know how devastating it would be if they walked into the room and saw you and your secretary. Oh, don't worry. I'm going to protect her from this by hiding it. You can't hide it, buddy. We're not called to indulge our sinful nature. We are called to serve one another in love. The entire law, and this is Galatians 5:14, is summed up within a single command: love your neighbor as yourself. What are we talking about? We're talking about paying the debt of love. We owe love to each other. It is a debt. In Ephesians chapter 4, verse 1, Paul says that he is a prisoner for the Lord. As a prisoner of the Lord, then I urge you to live a life worthy of the calling you have received. Be completely humble and gentle. Be patient, bearing with one another in love. We're going to get to verse 3 of that passage in the next segment. But I just wanted to bring that out just to emphasize one thing, and that is we have a debt that we owe, a debt of love, and we have to pay that debt daily. And sometimes there's a sacrifice to paying that debt. I remember the time when there were tricks where you would show up at work, get a cup of coffee, put it on the edge of your desk, hang your coat on the back of your chair, then go out and see a movie. That's lying. That's cheating. That's stealing. That's fraud, waste, and abuse. You owe a debt of love. If you love the Lord and you work as unto the Lord, you give the service that you're being paid for. And if someone tells you to sit in a corner, you sit in a corner as unto the Lord, and don't sit there talking ugly about anybody. Okay, next segment, we're going to continue this thought and talk about the unity of the body through love.